I know I'm going to put this in the title of the video instead of making it like an unofficial rant, but I just want to specify this video will contain spoilers for Season 4 of The Boys and also Season 1 of Gen V, so you haven't caught up in the entire franchise, fuck off. Also, before we get into the official thing, I want to get into a sort of side one. I've seen a couple of videos of people saying that, they were introduced to The Boys through the show and then they went on and read the comics and they think that the comics are absolute shit. And I just want to refute that. No, they're not. They're great. They're not as good as the show, but they're still amazing. Someone was surprised by the fact that it was, Garth Ennis hates superheroes and all that, so he just made everyone a bad guy. Like, they're all irredeemable, whereas in the show, Starlight she never really did anything wrong. Victoria somewhat could have been redeemed from Butcher, etc. Yeah, it's an anti-superhero comic. That was the whole fucking point. The show is also an anti-superhero show. Like, the timing of the show coming out was impeccable, since now people no longer like the MCU. Anyway, I mean, look, even this Wikipedia page calls it satirical superhero TV series, not just superhero TV series. But anyway, and now getting to the official rant. This is going to be kind of like my video where I defended The Last of Us 2 from Last of Us 2 fans, because really I should be making a video saying that Season 4 was total shit because they upped the wokeness of it. And I'm going to say, Season 4 is the second best season of the entire franchise, and that's including Season 1 of Diabolical and Season 1 of Gen V. Like, the only thing better than it is Season 3. Like, the only problem with the show, and I do mean the only problem with Season 4, is the fact that they upped the wokeness, because it used to just be, they had Homelander as a metaphor for Trump. They had, Bobby Singer was supposed to be a metaphor for just these older politicians, and I guess I assumed that they were going to do a sort of Joe Biden, Kamala Harris thing, where Bobby's just a fucking retard. But then they started it off with him admitting, talking about how Victoria needs to be put down. I don't think they were going to go in that direction, so it surprised me. But just, the only politics in it, really, were just the metaphorical shit. But they really upped it, especially with the character of Firecracker. I thought Sage was going to be the one that did it, because for the first few episodes she was like, white people this, white people that, but she became less prevalent as the season went on, and then even the scenes she were in, it was mostly either comedical stuff, or I don't even think that's a word, but you know what I mean, or just she didn't mention anything about race. And that is something that I want to say that I didn't like about the season. The fact that she said she wanted to see if she could accomplish all this of basically helping Homelander achieve his vision. It's reminding me of Broadchurch, because the way, that's a crime show. This boy dies, and they, instead of, they spend the entire 8 episodes looking for evidence, and finally they get the evidence and they convict the guy. He just confesses. It was trying to do something different, and I didn't have a problem with that. It was just, there's a reason why all these crime shows go off at evidence instead of just someone confesses, because it's anticlimactic. And that's how I felt about Sage saying that she did it to see if she could, because I was thinking about that halfway through the last episode, because I didn't remember she gave a reason in the first episode for that. But on to Firecracker. Even the casting of Valerie Curry, they said that they intentionally got a lesbian to do it, but something I don't understand is the fact that if she's gay, Why was she married to a man while she was filming it? Unless she's like a fucking Philip Schofield type. Anyway. And then her whole character is just like a parody of Christians. Because, God forbid, there is only a minority of Christians, like sort of Southern Christians, Southern American Christians, well, wouldn't really happen anywhere else in America, wouldn't really happen anywhere else in the world. But it just sort of seem to blame all Christians for all the problems that like everything that was problematic with Firecracker, like pedophile, which I do get that, but that's more of a Catholic thing. That's not really a Christian thing. Her love for guns, which there's nothing wrong with that. God forbid she wanted to defend herself. I get she has superpowers, but since this is all supposed to be metaphorical for the real world, and there are no superpowers in the real world, what else was there? I'm trying to think. I'll just move on from the point of Firecracker. I have a feeling that people are going to say that, a big problem this season is the fact that they just kept on trying to do edgy things. Like, episode 2, I think it was, you had that scene for Rob Benedict's character, then you had the Tech Night party. There were a couple other scenes this season. And I do somewhat agree with that, but I don't care, I still find it really funny. And speaking of the Tech Night party, there was a scene in that where they interrogate Tech Night by threatening to donate money to all these causes, and one of them was $100 million to BLM. That was another thing that I didn't like about it, because BLM doesn't really... They're not... When was the last time you heard about BLM other than that episode? Because the last time I heard about them was like in 2021 or 2022, where their leader was caught using the donations that they were given to buy a mansion just for herself. Like, she was buying a mansion, she was going to like put a bunch of black people who couldn't afford housing or anything like that. That'd be fine, but she bought that for herself. Like, you're not donating to black causes, you're donating to this bitch. The problem people had with the show that I didn't, or well, at least with this season, was the Frenchie subplot. Which people kept on changing their mind about that, because it started off with him fucking Colin, and they're like, oh. Sorry about that. They were saying, why would you be with him when you could have been with Kimiko? And I feel like, I know that this is ironic coming from me, but I feel like if that's how you think that's... What the fuck? Sorry about that, just something that I'm not going to get into because it'd be another rant. But I feel like, I get it's ironic coming from me, but the people who saying things like that, you're all fucking virgins. Like, that's not how lust works. But excuse Ginger being a bitch. He, Frenchie killed Colin's family, and now he feels guilty, and it's not like he's fucking Colin to make him feel better, but he's just keeping him company to make him feel better. Well, at least make Frenchie feel better. Also, just Frenchie and Kimiko work out better as friends than they do as a couple. Like, I was disappointed by that kiss at the end, but obviously that's... Everyone else was like, hey, finally, something good happened this season. Even though this season has been nothing but peak. Like, honestly, before I get into each individual episode, let me just go through this cast again. Yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, that reveal that he's not real. It was predictable. Also, people complain about Ryan's voice. He's a fucking teenager. He's going through puberty. That's another thing people didn't like about this season, the fact that Homelander is being very hypocritical. Just, the fact that he has spent the entire show being feared by everyone. And then, in this season, he wants people to at least try to challenge him in ways. But that makes perfect sense for Homelander to be like that. Like, it is the most natural course for his character to go, because, season 1, he was a psychopath, but he was well disguised. Season 2, mostly the same. Season 3, started to drop a little bit, and he was becoming more fucked, and now he just... I feel like he doesn't... It's no fun for him anymore, that's why he wants people to challenge him. And it makes sense. Just because a character is hypocritical in a show or a film or anything like that doesn't make it bad writing. It needs to be done well, and in this case it is. I know I've already sort of gone over this, but I want to go over it in sort of general instead of specifically for each individual subplot. People just don't like the subplots. But the thing is that, like most good shows and films, this is a character-driven show. It's not plot-driven. So, yeah, it starts off and you get hooked because, one, you want to see how they kill Homelander, and you just want to see him die because he is such a bad guy and all that, but you stay for the characters, just like most good media. And, people didn't like the Frenchie subplot, people didn't like the Hugh subplot with his dad, stuff like that. It's just, they're progressing the character. Like, it's character development, which is what you need. Because if you don't develop your characters, it just becomes stale. Like, that's the reason why procedurals are not really popular in my age demographic, because people don't want to watch a show that lasts so long but yet has so little of an overall plot, because they take a very long time to develop the characters in procedural shows. Like, Mentalist, 7 seasons, and it was only at season 6, I think, the end of season 6, that Jane and Lisbon started dating. So, but yet, he starts dating Starlight in season 1 and proposes to her. Well, I don't know if they're gonna stay proposed or not. We'll just have to wait till season 5. But, that happens in season 4. So the character development in a show like The Boys is a lot faster. But yeah, people don't like the character development this season in particular. And that sort of leads me into a next point. Nothing is sacred anymore. Like, I can't think of anything. Like, 2019, when the show first aired, the MCU would have been considered sacred because there was only a few hiccups in it. Captain Marvel wasn't really that good. Thor: The Dark World and Thor 1, not, very forgettable. The rest, for the most part, was peak. But now, with the constant fuck-ups they've had, and just people being little bitches, it's no longer sacred. But hey, we still had shows like The Boys and Invincible. And they are also, even though The Invincible is only on season 2, it is no longer sacred. Some people didn't like season 2 because they're pussies. A lot of people didn't like season 4 of The Boys because they're pussies. And it pisses me off. But that's me done with episode 1. I didn't really have anything to say about that. But here we go. The fact that they specify on the Wikipedia page that Firecracker is alt-right, which that's another thing I forgot to mention about her when I was talking about her, specifically. She isn't alt-right. Like, that's not what that means. The alt-right is the same as the far-right. It's just two different words for the same thing, and they're Nazis. What Firecracker advocates for is not... That's not Nazi shit. That's just basic human decency. Like, advocating for shit like the nuclear family is not a bad thing. Sorry, I had to take a drink there. And all those conspiracy theories, well, at least that's what they're being called in this episode. You know, stuff like Epstein's flight list and shit like that. That's not a conspiracy theory. Like, that was literally proven. You know, we know that, for example, Stephen Hawking, Donald Trump, and Bill Clinton were there. But there's so many people that we don't know about yet. Because of... You know, the people responsible for dealing with this shit are in the club. And a lot of the people on the list are also in the club. Which is why they're being protected. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's been proven true. Another thing that people didn't like that I somewhat agree with is the fact that they sort of forced in a Giancarlo guest star. Because they were thinking, like, you know... Everyone... Right, I watched it with Ben Man, Dylan, and Ginger. And they all sort of thought that this meant that Giancarlo was back for good. You know, it's not just going to be a guest star. But, I mean, that's not how it works. You know? I don't remember what the deal is, but the deal wasn't he gets out. I'm pretty sure the deal was just help us because you care for Zoe. Excuse me, Aunt Victoria. So, it's a bit stupid to think that the whole point of that was to bring him back. It wasn't to bring him back permanently. I'll admit it was forced, and that was a bit shit, but that's not... I wouldn't say that everything that I've said so far that's wrong with this season, like, that's not nowhere near enough to say that it's been a bad season. Oh, I didn't read on that they explained that Newman frees him. I forgot about that bit. Something that I'll say now that I'll bring up like at least one more time, maybe a couple more, is the fact that this is the second last season, and that was the plan the entire time. Like, this is being used to set up season 5. This isn't being used to set up anything in season 4. And once again, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, these seasons exist because the actors need a break. Also, they need to do Gen V. And maybe... I've heard rumours about other spin-offs, but nothing's been confirmed yet. But, you know, the only reason why we have seasons in the first place is so that the actors and everyone else can get a break. Like, if humans were just always energized, we wouldn't have seasons. We would just have the episodes. And the show would have ended in 2019. Because they would have released all the episodes, like, weekly or maybe daily, maybe just all at once. I know it's a bit weird thinking about it from a premium television standpoint, but just that's really how it works, especially. Like, the only times where seasons really make a difference is in shows like Dexter or Arrow, where there's seasonal villains. Another thing of this episode is that, you know, it took them 5 episodes to establish a connection to Gen V. I get that there already was a connection since we had Homelander and Soldier Boy. Well, Soldier Boy was just a hallucination, but you know what I mean. The fact that they appeared in Gen V. But I think the reason why there was so little of a connection between Gen V and this is because, one, your man died, and I get that they filmed this long before his death, but just there's nothing they can do with his character now that he's dead in real life. So they couldn't do that. Too. Characters like Marie are currently trapped by Homelander, so there's nothing they can do there. And Free. I don't remember what my third point is. I don't think this is it, but this is what they have to say about it. Gen V is... It's standing on its own feet. It is an extension of the boys' universe. It's not just like, you need to watch... Excuse me. It's not like, you need to watch Gen V. It's just, you should watch it because it's so good. And because it will explain some things that may or may not happen in Season 5. And I think the reason why they did it this way is because of things like the Book of Boba Fett, where the show overall was shit. The only good episodes about it were the crossovers with The Mandalorian. But, so, you're watching Boba Fett for The Mandalorian. And so I think Eric intentionally wrote it so that you weren't watching Gen V for Homelander or anyone else. You were watching it for Marie, Kate, Sam, everyone else. Is there a character called Sam? Yeah, there is. Anyway. Actually, not anyway. I'll just... So, people wanted more of a Gen V connection, but to me it seems like what they really want is just Gen V Season 2. Like, everything that they're looking for, that's what's going to happen in Season 2. Like, it wouldn't make sense for Marie to appear in the show, even if it were just Homelander went to wherever the fuck it was that he trapped them. Because Homelander is... he has more than just one fucking purpose. Like, he's not just there to have kidnapped Marie. He is there because he is the franchise. And Marie's just a very small part of it. Here's the problem I had with episode 7 and just the whole Frenchie thing. It's the fact that, he tries to do the right thing by confessing and just going to the jail for everyone that he killed. But then, like an episode or two later, he gets brought out by Butcher. And it wasn't just like, oh, we need you back just for a little bit, and then go back if you want. It's, he came back for good, which, doing that so soon makes no sense. Two things about episode 7. One, like, Ben Man in particular, but I think Dylan and Ginger did also, want to know this. They're like, where's A-Train in this? Where's A-Train in episode 8? Like, he's on the run. Homelander knows that he is the leak. He is coming after him. Oh, but why didn't you see Homelander go after him? Because it's a fucking irrelevant detail. Like, we're not seeing what Homelander does 24/7. We wouldn't see Homelander... Well, maybe we might, since this is the boys, but, we wouldn't really see Homelander take a shit because it's such a minor detail, same way that this, in the grand scheme of things, is so minor. That's why we're not seeing A-Train in episode 8, and we might not see him in season 5. Same way that, since Maeve is just also living quietly at the end of season 3, that's why we don't see her in season 4, because it's such a minor detail. Like, I don't need to know that Maeve is currently on the sofa watching Love Island. Anyway, the second problem I have with this episode is when they did that, puppet show with Ryan, and he, live says that, you shouldn't be reporting on your family and all that. It's such a clear, metaphor about McCarthyism. But the thing is that McCarthyism hasn't been practiced by the Republicans in 70 years, like it hasn't happened since the 50s. It doesn't really happen now. The only time that it really happened was with cancel culture. But it's the left wing that was doing cancel culture. Yeah, there were some right wingers cancelling as well, but it was overall a left wing thing. So, you own people, Eric. So, as for episode 8, this is the season finale for the second last season, and it's absolute madness. They only got like an hour and 10 minutes, and I think it's Amazon. I think it's their fault because it's so much happening in such a short time. When if the show were on, say, HBO, they could have got an hour and a half easy. Since, Game of Thrones got an hour and a half for their last episode. So, people were pissed off by a couple of things in this. One, like, why did the show actually take Compound V and then not do anything with it? Because they didn't get enough time for episode 8. They're going to show it in season 5. Just be patient. That the scene fits more in episode 8 of season 4 than it does in episode 1 of season 5. So it's just the fact that they only got an hour and 10 minutes for the last episode instead of, say, an hour and 30. Another one is the fact that Newman, I know I mentioned this before, but the fact that she was going to redeem herself, but then is almost immediately killed by Butcher. And that's nothing to do with the timing or anything like that. At least not of the episode itself, but just the fact that, she did it too late. Which, I thought Ginger would have had no problem with that, since he's such a big fucking Shakespeare fan. Because, that's what happens, I'm pretty sure, in stuff like King Lear, where it's only when it's too late that he's like, oh, I fucked up. So that's the end of the season. So, to TLDR for 27 minutes, season 4 is peak. Nothing less. Sweetbitter. Mixed rating, stars original. I watched it on YouTube, unfortunately. L. Purnell. This show is like if... This is going to sound like a weird combination, but it's like The Bear mixed with The Devil Wears Prada. Like, I can imagine, like, the Grey's Anatomy crowd, and I get that this came out before The Bear, but I can just imagine, like, that sort of teenage girl crowd looking at something like The Bear and saying, there's not enough romance in this, even though what they mean by romance is lust. Where's all the sex? Don't get me wrong, it's a okay show. If I were a teenage girl, I'd love it, but I'm not, so I don't. It's just, you know what, I'd rather have Boiling Point or The Bear than this. Which, I knew that going into it, but I was hoping that it was going to have at least somewhat competition, but it just doesn't. I'm going to continue watching it. It's just barely enough to keep me interested, but I wouldn't be surprised if I give up after a couple episodes. Because I don't think this is going to go anywhere. And, in review, Yakuza Kiwami 2. To be clear about something, I'm not immediately going on to Yakuza 3. Which, now I can drop the Kiwami bit. Because, one, I don't know if I mentioned this in my beginning and middle review for Kiwami 2, but I was immediately going to go from 1 to 2, but I didn't because while I was playing 1, I was downloading a bunch of stuff that I knew it was going to take me like mere hours to beat. Like I had Terminator Legend and Sly Cooper and all that. And I went through those, then I went to Kiwami 2, and since then, there have been some more things. Like, I've got the DLCs for Just Cause 3 now, on PlayStation. So I've been going through that, and like how much space I get when I delete that determines if I go on to Yakuza 3 next. But even if I do, it won't be immediate, because in between 2 and 3 there is a game that I'm going to assume that when translated into English, the title is like a dragon Kenzen, which I don't know the actual title for it because it is a Japanese only thing. It wasn't released anywhere else, so I have to watch that on YouTube with an English translation, which I really don't want to do, but fuck it. I'm going to respond to this text first before I continue. Sorry about that, Dylan's being a dickhead. I'll explain quickly what's happening. We agreed that on the 30th, we are going to go watch Deadpool, and then we'll go to his house. And we agreed on a certain time for Deadpool. I didn't remember what the certain time was. I thought it was 4:30, or maybe 4. And in between us picking that time and now, they have changed the late shift for me. So the way that my job works is that I alternate every week between the late shift and the early shift, and the late shift used to be 12 to 4. Now it's 1 to 5, so if we picked like 4 or 4:30, I'd be fucked. I couldn't go. And we'd have to reschedule, and that's what I was just making sure. Give plenty of time for everyone to know that we need to reschedule. Even if it's just picking the next time, which is like half an hour later. Because, I mean, if we're all going to his house, then it shouldn't really make a difference because we're staying there overnight. But he's just being whingy. Because, oh, you picked the time, Dylan, which I don't think I did. Like, I might have looked at the times and said, well, I can't do these, so we'll start from this time. And then everyone else say, yeah, that time's fine. But Bin Man thinks that it's 5, so that's no problem. I can just skip my break and leave half an hour early. But back to like a Dragon Kansen. I want to watch that before I get in the Yakuza 3, even though they're not connected. So, I won't be immediately going into that. Also, if deleting Just Cause gives me enough space to download something else, like something quite short, like COD. I got COD's big, but, it's short since I'm only doing like the multiplayer, or the campaign, and maybe the first map of zombies. That's going to be done very quickly. So, I'd rather get that done, and I can delete all that. And, I mean, since I already have the campaign packs downloaded, I'm going to increase my space. I'm not just going to, like, get my space back. I'm going to increase it, because the campaign packs are gone. Anyway. The story, I felt, was easier to... I might have said this, but it was easier to follow because I'm getting to know the characters. Although the ending I thought was a bit shit with the guy from the start revealing not only is he alive, but he's actually the bad guy the entire time. But actually, no, he's not the bad guy the entire time. He was just a puppet working for someone else, and that guy was the bad guy the entire time. And to be honest, it kind of reminded me of that scene from Ghosted where they had that cameo porn where you had so many people going to kill Anna de Armas and Chris Evans, but then another celebrity would kill them first, and so on for like 2 minutes. That's what that felt like, where you fight against Ryuji, I think the guy's name is, then you had the fat guy who faked his death, then you had the other guy, and it's just, I didn't like it. Majima Saga, I quite liked, although the gameplay I'm not a fan of. The story was fine, plus I like the way that they humanized Majima, since, this game in the first one, he's just like a total psycho with no sort of character to him, but now he does. I just want to be clear about something, if you're still watching from the boys segment. There's a difference between character and personality. Anyway. The game was... I can't believe that I'm saying this, because I'm such a pussy when it comes to games, but it was a little too easy. Maybe I'm just putting on the right skills, or maybe it's the fact that I'm using weapons, since I just didn't at all in the first game. But, I played on normal, and I died once. And even then I had a sacrifice stone, so I didn't really. Or no, I died twice, but one time was a sacrifice stone anyway. And they both weren't in the story, they were in side missions. That's really the only complaint I have. I did more of the side shit this time because of the sub-stories made it way easier. Hiraki's requests. I did quite a few of those. I did 30 of them. Mostly just because I wanted to get the technique primer that you get when you reach rank SS. But then it just wouldn't let me, fucking read it. Yeah. But, because of that, I tried the baseball, which sucks. I tried the golf, which... it's very nice. I like it. I think the only thing I didn't try was karaoke. I ate food. All the food that you can get for all the skills. Which, it's not much there, but just so you know. And that's the only time that I really used medicine. I just healed by drinking the shit you get from the venom machines, and then restocking on them. The only time I really used medicine was when I was using the abstims, I think they're called, to lower your hunger gauge, just so that I can eat more. So, I swear, everything that I didn't like about the first game that they improved on in this, I also don't like in this. I get I'm being hypocritical, but it's just that there needs to be a balance. And I'm finding it really hard to talk about things. I can't think of anything to say, even though when I was playing it, which, there wasn't even that much of a gap. It was I finished it yesterday. Despite that, I had lots of things to say yesterday, but all of a sudden I forget them. Also the Colosseum, which, once again, too easy. Yeah, if I try to think of anything else, it'll just be fucking more yap than there already is.